after party segment. Hmm. Hmm. Good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Marvel, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning to each and every one of you. It is Thursday, November 13th, 2025. It is 42 degrees and mostly clear outside, and baby, it's always something going on. Okay, okay, okay. I'm working on an after party. We're going to do an after party at 7:30 this morning because we have much to discuss around the government reopening. David Alexander Jenkins is back in the country, and so he and I are going to talk about a few things because he feels Friday is going to be a spectacular day in the news. And so I'm bringing him on so we can, negotiate through that. But you all know that Thursday belongs to Cherie Syfax. It is Love is Thursday, and we're going to discuss all things love, relationships, etc. Last week we talked about the young men from the ages of 18 to 25 who had never been in a relationship with a woman. They're using AI, they're using robots to get into relationships with online, which has led to devastating results in so many ways. And so we began talking about how do we pull our young men back into the fray where they're actually in relationships with real people, not AI. I'm telling you, life is shifting and changing at a rate that we can't even begin to imagine out here. But as always, I start with my morning motivation because Cherie will be on at 6:45. All right. Okay. Let me see. There's always something. I wrote this below on my blog maybe about 8 years ago, and I continue to grow beyond what is often presented in front of me with amazing results. Emotional intelligence. Do not leave home without it. Something happened that left me looking sideways, and I was completely annoyed. I stewed in it overnight and gave myself every rational angle on why I was justified in being so. I awakened with a funky attitude, just waiting for the wrong thing to be said by the wrong person. I got in my car and began thinking that maybe this person should feel a dose of their own medicine so they could see what I felt. And then I stopped short mid thought and began questioning where my own motives were coming from and was it worth the angst and who would it serve long term for the short term feeling of teaching a lesson. I began dissecting what this person fully meant to my life and that we all make mistakes. And in the grand scheme of things, this wasn't that big of a deal. Wait, what? Did I just behave maturely? Was I choosing to use emotional intelligence in a way that would bring solutions instead of an argument because my language mattered? Yes, indeed. And my soul thanked me for recognizing the shift for the first time solidly, even as I spend my life always seeking to be a part of the solution and not the problem. I gave myself a mental pat on the back and resolved to be a part of making things smooth again. And I did, and it worked out beautifully. Our emotional growth is dictated by those shifts in our psyche from time to time. We choose our joys and our sorrows through our patterns of behavior, and staying steeped in what was always comfortable of us for us to do means that we never move beyond that comfort zone of mediocrity. Always challenge yourself to do and be better. Deuces and mad love. I see a lot of emotions flying in the last year, particularly. And I understand it. I get it, right? I went and signed up for a course with um, Lion Story to work on myself, to go through what would I call it, my own professional development, because I could find myself just feeling so like just my I didn't feel like I had enough patience like I would normally do as a direct result of the things that were going on around me. And so I signed up for this course. I took it for 4 days and I got some things out of it because what I was learning, what I was being taught is something that I teach too. So I had to take myself out of teacher mode and really become the student in the process and learned quite a bit about why I was in the spaces that I was in and how to really manage myself. It's called the CLCB worksheet, right? Um, where where I work on my anger, my joy, fear, hope, etc., and work through it. And so I have it here in front of me. I use it just about every day, right? Um, how I notice my feelings, what's going on, why am I in the spaces of where I am, etc., etc., and where my sources of power are coming from, verbal, visual, anything else, physical. And so I've been working through these cues to get me to where I am. And so when you experience what you feel to be someone harming you, or you're feeling aggrieved by something someone said and did, before you jump the gun and want to have a conversation and fight with people and argue, etc., remove yourself from the situation long enough, just long enough to say, why am I experiencing this? Where's the anger coming from? Was that person, did that person say something that I know was something that I did, but I didn't want them to talk about it? Was it really, did they really harm me? Or did they call out something that I had done to myself with myself? And so then it changes the pattern of what you are doing, how you respond. We always, always never want to respond in the moment. Never, ever, ever. And so that helps us as we move along and do what we have to do. It is right now, with all the things that are going on. The government just reopened yesterday. Well, they passed it's going to the President Trump's desk for him to sign it. I don't know if he signed it last night, but I knew before I went to bed that the government has, the shutdown has ended 43 days later. I do know that people are still struggling to figure out how to eat, that even when they get their jobs, it's going to take another 2 weeks or so before they get a paycheck, if they don't get paid by the week. And then some people gets paid once a month. So that determines, what that's going to look like for the next few weeks for them. All the things that people are going through and dealing with. And I'm cautioning all of us, because when we put it out there, we can't take it back. So last night I was on a Zoom call with about 100 other Black women, and Leslie Renee was our featured speaker. And as I listened to her talk about how we feel when things happen to us, the experience, the emotions that we experience, I was just blown away that as Black women in particular, and women in general, we go through things and we just don't say anything. We just, push through. As my sister would say, cut and go through, right? And it's a dangerous place to be in. We may need therapy. We may need to sit down and talk to folks. We may need to, you know, but that comes when you treat people well, when you have a cachet of women around you that knows that you are a decent, kind human being. And when life happens to you, they will pick up and show up. When I was going through my stuff, oh my God, it's been a year now, a year ago and some change. I did without, this is how I knew who my true friends were. There were lots of people who called. There were 4 that came and knocked on the door and said, open up, let's sit down, come on, I had on my mother's robe, because I was working through some stuff, and I was resolute and just trying to figure it out. And they sat me down and they said, all right, we're going to throw up some stuff on the wall. This is what we're going to do. Let's talk about what your next moves are going to be, blah, blah, blah. But they didn't blink, and they kept coming back day after day after day to make sure that I was okay, right? It's so interesting that in the middle of all of this, and then the rest of you, oh my God, the rest of you just never stop. Mother, you having a lunch? Oh, I'm coming. Hundreds of you showed up. 2 weeks later, you're starting a podcast. Okay, Marva, we're going to be here. You're doing mornings with Marva. Okay, we're going to be right here with you. Please understand that the gratitude that I experience from each and every one of you every single day continues to dictate that I manage my emotions and manage how I talk to and treat people. I can't fix anybody else, and I'm not trying to. But what I am doing is making sure that I am a solid example for everything else that goes on around me. I don't always get it right. I don't. I really, truly don't. But what I don't want are fair weather friends, fair weather acquaintances who show up because they think it's to their benefit, and then all of a sudden you disappear. That doesn't work for me. Andrea Robin Manley, I'm going to call you later on today when I have a minute, because I thought of you as I was watching all of that unfold last night, and how you just, whew, I can never thank you enough. So many of you, I can never thank you enough. I have gift certificates to spa treatments that I haven't even accessed yet because I haven't had the time. But you all have just been so, so incredibly wonderful. And so from my heart to yours, and I will do this occasionally, you know that I'm famous for this. I say thank you. Thank you so much. So Cherie's going to come on. David Alexander Jenkins is going to join us at 7:30 for the after party because he sent me some things and I was like, David, we need to talk about this today. We need to talk about this today. So let me look at the chat. This week has been hard for me, live streaming. Make sure that you hit like and subscribe, please. Every day I'm like, Laverne says, good morning, Nikita. I love you too, darling. I love you too. I hope all is well in your new home and that you're going to be all right. Laverne, girl, it was. And I'm sleeping by 8 o'clock. I woke right on up as soon as I heard Leslie's voice and the things that she experienced and what she talked about. Marguerite says, I used to respond in the moment, not my best decision. Yeah, we have to think it through, right? Laverne says, I hope people decide family and fellowship and do not shop this Christmas. Yep. Laura says, he signed. Okay, he signed. The president signed it, so they showed it on the news. Good morning, Marguerite. Good morning, Laverne. I see all of you here. It's, it's a lot. And the other thing that I want to tell you, because we've always just as a people, when bad things happen or when we're going through things, we just keep going. We have to learn, particularly as women, how to relax, how to say no. I am now in a space where there are days where I just go, all right, I get off the air. I'm going to do laundry. I used to run. This one needs me. That one needs me. That I'm going over here, over there. I called a sister who had a major stroke. And I said, I really do want to come and see you, my sister. But right now, I'm just going to spend the time talking to you on the phone. I just cannot. I don't have the bandwidth. And I don't want to feel badly about not coming to see you. I stopped ripping and running. I really did. And it's helping me to decompress and relax around the things that absolutely matter. LaFern says, I used to be a 2.5-second response. I started personal development some years ago and shifted from that. Pause. Always pause. Always pause, especially when it feels searing hot in the moment. Always pause, right? Laverne said, I received a notice and was in the market shopping, forgot to log in. It's all right, my sister. You missed something, though, but maybe it wasn't for you to hear in that moment. We have to figure out how to support and love on one another despite what it looks like. Good morning, Beatrice. Good morning. And Dennis. I see you all here. My goodness, say it, Marguerite. She says, no one needs you more than you need yourself. It is absolutely true. And I used to feel guilty. I remember, I'm looking back at some of the memories when I was in, Vibrant Imagine started in 2005. I was there. It is a program that was started in Abington Junior High School by Denise James. And I was there from the inception because I was starting the Calm Society in that moment, sitting on my sun porch going, what the hell is going on in this district? Where are the Black parents? What's happening? And then I realized that we're white parents with Black children who are still going through the same thing. And right there in the moment, I was like, all right, we're going to start this thing. And the Calm Society was 20 years old yesterday. 20 years consistently showing up for young people, 20 years of working with families who were struggling, 20 years of working within school systems. We started in Abington, and I think I touched every school district in Montgomery County and Bucks County because they all called me to come on in to do what we were doing in Abington. Went to Harvard. We presented at Harvard University. We won all these awards. But you know what the real reward was? The children, when they see us, who are now young adults, getting married, have careers, went to college, went to trade school, and they run up. Sometimes we don't see them. And they run up into my back and go, Miss Andrea. And they tell me, one yesterday after I came out of the gym, he posted on my page. He said, you taught me how to feel comfortable in a suit. I will never forget you for that, and I love you so much. That's the reward, not the thing showing up in the papers or being in the news about what we do. The quiet times when students would call and say, I'm in college, my mother paid for my tuition, but I can't wash my clothes, I don't have any food to eat. And Tracy Simmons would gather up the basket, and she said, all right, we need to put some money together, and we would send gift cards, and we would send laundry soap. Sometimes we drove up to their colleges. and we would drop off the gift cards and the laundry soap and the bedding and all those things. Nobody knew any of these things. After the cameras were gone and the lights were over, we were consistent with the children. We continue to remain consistent with young people. And so you don't have to be a part of an organization. You don't have to be seen, and you don't have to be taking a whole bunch of pictures. In the still of the night, when nobody else is answering the phone, I can't tell you how many times our phones have rung. Oh my God. And I say, Denise, I'm gonna lose teeth and hair, but these children, sometimes I just laid on the sofa and couldn't move down. I couldn't move because there was so much pushback, so much fighting on behalf of these young people because we were told they were no good. We were told that they just couldn't be a part of anything, even though they were born and raised in that community. So it's worth it. It is absolutely worth it. Laverne says, this year I have been learning boundaries. It has been the best personal development. It is. It absolutely is. So not forcing to be a part of anything. Someone says, are you going to such and such an event on Saturday? Nope. Nope, nobody, nope, all the nopes in Nope Land. Saturday, it's for Renee Bolden and her group. Then it's going to be the Gene Ripping thing. And then I'm going to the new restaurant that, so I'm I'm curating the spaces where I spend my day. It's you just have to, because in the stillness of the night, what do you have when you look around you after you've taken all the pictures and gone to all the places? What keeps you warm and happy at night? We as human beings need connection, y'all. We need connection. Janelle says, if you don't sit down, God will do it. We absolutely have to take care of ourselves and give grace to yourself and others. And good morning, my sweetie. Dolores says, you're no good to anyone unless you are good to yourself. Yep. Oh, Nikita says, that's why I love you, your heart. I love you too, my darling. Absolutely. Good morning, sweetie pie.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Child, it's another day in paradise in these
Yes.
United States. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time and have never seen this beautiful young lady, yeah, you reckon young lady here, Sarita.
Thank you. I'll take it.
This is Cherie Syfax, co-owner of Booker's Restaurant and Bar. But before she bought Booker's, she was on my show talking about the Love Is segment, and we just kind of stayed there. She speaks to living the life that you want to have, and that sometimes our journey that we think it's where it's supposed to be isn't where we land, but it's for our own good, and that we have to do our own self-reflection and work. Good morning, my darling. Good morning. So it's the Love Is segment, and everybody seems to enjoy this part of the programming. And they love to hear what we talk about. Now, can I be honest with you?
Yes, because I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't know what the hell we talking about today.
Oh, well, let me just say this. I had a new addition to my family yesterday. So my daughter had her baby.
Oh, okay. Uh-oh.
So I had a bunch of mixed
You
emotions
tired?
yesterday. No, I just had a bunch of mixed emotions yesterday. One, me and Tracy didn't have a good day. So I got to deal with
Okay.
that. But I think, two, just not being there. Sometimes I like grapple with the fact that I'm so far away. So I go on Sunday. That was always the plan. She was due on the Sunday, but she felt she was going to have him a little bit early. But not being there just kind of like sits into, like, and just wanting to sit at one of my girlfriend's houses if I have a problem. I have great relationships here, don't get me wrong, but it's not
I
like
hear you.
home, for sure. It is not like home. And so, yeah, I had a tough day yesterday because my emotions were really high because Honor Sage is his name, came into the world. And then, then some realities of reality that you deal with because, life is happening. And I was just getting off my prayer call, and sometimes you just get what you need. And, I was talking about just, do we get busy? And when we get busy, how does that impact our relationships and, our marriages, and what do we make time for? How do we make time for God to get into our lives, and how do we make time for our marriages to evolve? And just like for people who give up, do you give up before God is able to, and able to bless your union, your friendships, whatever those things are that you give up on too soon because you're like, this is too hard. And so it was just, so it was like, oh, I needed that.
Yeah,
um,
I can feel your energy. And because you and I have always been transparent, uh I want to be thoughtful in the way I place these next set of words.
oh, thank you, everybody. Yes, baby Limber. We have a lot of grandkids now. I started with two. I had two when I met Tracy. That was it.
Yeah,
His two,
yeah,
and that's
yeah.
all I thought I was going to have. Now we have seven.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's a lot. That's a lot.
We have
Let
seven.
me thoughtfully curate the next set of words that I'm going to utter here. Um, in the last week, I have been having conversations with women who are struggling in their marriages, and I'm talking 27 years, 23 years, because of things, external things that are happening or internal things that are happening. And a few days ago, I had to say to a sister, you didn't get to this point in your marriage, which I think is 23 years, for things to fall apart. Give your husband a minute to kind of calm down because a lot had happened. And then let's kind of then gently have the conversation with him. And as I was saying that, I the other morning, my husband came into our room because my I he can't sleep in our bedroom. It's just too cold or too hot it's a lot going on in there. And he's like, I am not menopausal and I'm not doing this. I am not freezing because you
Want to be
just.
in the freezer?
He just looks at me like I can't, right? So he says, I've been worried about you. I said, but I've been worried about you too. And he said, well, what are you worried about? And I told him, and I said, well, what are you worried about? And he told me, and we looked at each other because we've been so busy,
Mm-hmm.
because we've been going back and forth doing different things. And I had to take a stock and realize I was snapping sometimes
Mm-hmm.
unintentionally because there was so much going on, right? And every time he would say, well, what's happening today? I said, child, you don't even want to know. As soon as I said, child, you don't even want to know, he goes, uh-oh, uh-oh. And so it becomes, and because of everything that's going on around the country, and because of how we have to renegotiate how we spend money, because it's all of that, Cherie. And I'm seeing so much of that. So how do you go through when things are happening? How do you navigate when you run into a situation in your marriage? Because we all do. And
Yeah.
and I've said to people, well, marriage is not work. Listen, you call it what you want to call it. Relationships are work. Forget the marriage part.
Yeah.
Relationships all by itself are just hard work. So how do you negotiate that in your space when it happens?
So I am in a situation where I am a communicator. So in therapeutic terms, I am a pursuer. Tracy is not a communicator, so he is a runner. So you can
I'm
imagine.
Tracy.
You're not a communicator?
I communicate, but when I am upset, I shut all the way down. And my
Got you.
husband's like,
And,
we need to
and
talk
when I'm
about it.
upset, I'm trying to solve the
Yeah.
problem.
Mhm.
Because it's like I fear like we got to solve this problem, or if you're making these statements, if you're saying these things, like if I don't perceive it to be the truth, not that I feel like I have to defend it, but no, we need to go through no because this or no because that. So I'm trying to argue my case. People said I should have been a lawyer. I'm trying to argue my case, in the midst of emotion. And my friends and I, when we've had disagreements, because again, this is across relationship types, it's not necessarily just in your marriage.
Right.
That same personality shows up in friendships. And my friendships over time, we have evolved. My friends know like how to approach me because they don't want to trigger me to be in that defense mode. So I'm able to receive their feedback a lot better because they approach it. But me and my friends have known each other for 30 years. Tracy and I
Right.
have known each other for 5.5 years. So if he says you're this, and I'm like, no, 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 versus when we are in good communication and it is the way we approach it is, I'm sure you didn't mean this, or I'm sure that, but this is how this made me feel. But when we don't do that, when we let busyness get in the way of our consistent, like, healthy communication, then you got 8 months pass by and something happens and something that's small or could have been resolved or that really is a little thing is a bigger thing because there's other stuff behind it. And so then there's not a lot of communication, or it's not a lot of like productive, healthy
Right.
communication.
Mhm.
So I am learning how to, even in those moments of the blow up or whatever, learning how to be like, no, let me not participate in that as much. Let me, Tracy will say, you're doing too much or you never let go. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't do enough. Like, you don't communicate enough. Because I think for me also, what happens, whether it's in therapy or in friendships or whatever, for my experience is that the more vocal, more demonstrative person is the person that gets counseled the most.
Mhm.
And silence to me isn't a fix either. That can be detrimental. So just because you don't communicate doesn't mean it's healthy. It just means you're holding on to stuff. So
Mhm.
I try to really like communicate the truth, and it's why everyone doesn't love me, because I'm pretty transparent and I'm going to share with you what I feel. Where a lot of people walk on eggshells and don't say anything and all those things. And I'm like, hey, this is how this made me feel. I thought that was whatever, and people just aren't used to that type of communication. So I recognize how valuable my friendships are because I've been able to be transparent. Like, hey, we know we love each other. We always assume good intent. And as a result, these words are heartfelt, and even if they don't come out right, know that love is behind them. But that's been 30 years of being together.
Mhm.
So
How have
we,
you adjusted? You're saying your friends adjusted to you. How have you adjusted to your
we
friends?
we we've adjusted to each other.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've adjusted to each other. Absolutely.
So, what is the adjustment
Because I
that
got
you?
some strong friends, and I got to tell them too, hey, that sounds a little
Yeah.
aggressive.
Yeah. Uh-huh. That's me and Denise. Denise is like, you come back. Denise, let's do this. Denise, come on, Denise. Denise. And she's like, Andrea. And while she understands me, she'll stop turning around and say, Bish, no, not right now.
Yeah,
And we work through all
Marguerite.
of that. It's a lot.
Marguerite said,
So
yeah, Mark, and
let me,
yep.
yeah, Marguerite says, my husband and I, no, 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 no. Marguerite says, hold on. Looking back over my marriage, I realized that although I had reasons to be mad, angry, etc., I didn't give him a lot of grace. And the other thing is, we get so busy, sometimes we don't really pay attention fully. I've been fully paying attention to my husband, just looking at him and going, all right, I got to make sure, because, he'll just keep going and going and going. I'm going, but something isn't right here.
No, I do too. I do too. But when you don't always have a communicator. For me, I don't have, so if I'm
My
like,
husband's
hey,
a communicator. Yeah.
how's everything going? I'm good. I'm good. Good. Everything is good until it's not good.
Yeah.
Um, so to Marguerite's point, where she says, wow, perspective, I feel the need to argue my case to justify why I did XYZ. And then he chose me, says, I'm a communicator, but I will walk away if there's a lot of back and forth, no resolve moment. And that's where I need to learn. Like, I am trying to make a person see my point, and they're not in an emotional state to see my point.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we're different, right? So we come from very different backgrounds. So some
Mhm.
of that traumatic experience that Tracy references, probably in the heat of emotion, I don't have that. I don't have that reference, So I'm angry just because in the moment, we're not getting resolution, and he may be, drawing back from old experiences, because some of the things he says is like, what?
Mhm.
So, it's that too, and just kind of giving people the space to be themselves. But my
Mhm.
girlfriend, she said, girl, I used to do that too. I mean, in marriage, I mean, we don't do that with each other because we've known each other a long time, but she's been married 10 years now. And she's
Mhm.
like, if my husband says something that's not true, I'm like, okay, that's not
Mhm.
true, but I don't have to defend myself because I know that that's not true. And you just have to get to that point. Like, it's not true that you're this or you're that or whatever.
But
It's
if you
who.
don't respond in the moment when everything calms down, do you go back and gently have the conversation though? Because
Oh,
my husband and I
absolutely.
do that,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
not
I think that's
always.
critical. You have to. You have
Yeah.
to. But I think that is critical that you have to. But I think about how many people, my husband included, probably had years of not. I mean, I observe people's families and that family dynamics. They never talk about real stuff, like all the surface stuff, all the people talk about. I think people in general talk about that stuff easily. But how often do people really address the challenges, or how often do they address and resolve, and so I don't think, as a people in general, we learn how to, in a healthy way,
Mhm.
communicate through challenges, you
Yeah.
know. So it's so people would prefer not to. I think that that's a general. I think that's general. People will prefer not to have,
Right.
what people call difficult conversations or whatever.
So then how do we navigate through it? Because it can be challenging, right? This year has been one challenge after another. Forget even just what goes on in our homes, but
Mm-hmm.
the external things
External
that
stuff.
causes the internal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
You got
That happens.
all
And
these
I
triggers
don't,
happening
yeah,
outside.
yeah.
Outside. Hmm.
So that's why this morning I started the show with, things happen to us and I look and I go, oh hell no, no, no. Oh hell to the no, to the no, no, no. But I have to pull myself back in the moment and go, I think to my own detriment though, I will wait months because then I want to give people grace. I don't do that anymore. You see what you see and you just walking around going, but did you just say that? I don't do that anymore, but it's hard. So I pull back, I listen. What role did I play in this? Why am I so triggered? What is it about what that person did that reminds me some more of myself,
And
right?
yes, that was part of my coaching and growth of, what part did I play in that? What triggered me? Um, and it was more about how did I participate in that whole experience. And
Yes.
definitely there's answers to that. And, we learn that.
Mhm.
Um, my hope is that whether it's my husband, my friends, my work, colleagues in my business, that they're also doing something similar,
Mhm.
because you can't be in relationship of any type alone,
Right. Right.
where only one person is having some reconciliation. So yeah.
But how do you break the hard habits of, doing what you do because this is how you've always done it? How do we
Yeah.
break that? How do you can't change anybody, you can change yourself. So how do you
Right, right,
how do
right.
you get
So,
through
but I
that
think
piece?
in that, for me, what I've noticed is, like, what's really been, one eye opening, and helped me grow as a person, is being at the restaurant. Um, and I say that because I'm in a population of people that I probably wouldn't have been normally, just because we just would not have, probably crossed paths.
Mhm.
And as a result, I have had to learn how to approach things very differently than I would have normally
Mhm.
approached things, because I'm engaging with people that just are thinking very differently than me. And so
And they've lived a different
live a
experience.
different experience, all the things. Yeah, all the
Mhm.
things. And so as a result, I have really worked on just trying to be super thoughtful before I communicate, um and all those things. So sometimes that energy that it takes to do that, I may not always give my husband that same grace. So it's just trying to learn how to, you know, like last night I got in the bathtub, had me some wine, had my candle, just, I know I'm not running on fumes, but I'm doing a lot. I am doing a lot. Um, and yeah, do I wish my husband gave me more grace? I do. So I won't
Mhm.
even pretend. Um, I do a lot. And this past week, obviously, I flew from around the world to
Mhm.
be home, to do a lot of things. And it's a lot, it's just a lot going on. Um, but if he
But what
doesn't,
does grace look
if
like for
if
you?
he doesn't,
What does grace look like for you? When you
for
say
me,
you wish he
like,
gave you more grace, what does
yeah,
it look
for me,
like for
it
you?
looks like appreciation. For me, it looks
Mhm.
like, hey, I know you've flown around the world and you walked back into funeral, museum, payroll, and so I see you and I appreciate you. And I'm a gifts person. So that is a very tangible, way to show that. Or what he's really good at is let's get away from all this. Whatever that looks like. It could
Right.
be a quick date. It could be a
Mhm.
day like we're gonna shut everything off and we'll just go and
Mhm.
go to New Hope or whatever. So that's what that looks like to me. When if I get opposite from anyone,
Mhm.
husband, friend, you know, colleagues, then I'm triggered because I want to feel seen and I want to feel appreciated because I know my contribution to anything that I do, friendship, our businesses, my workspace, when I worked in corporate, I know it's very, very valuable. So I do know that. So I want to understand and know that those that are touched by the investment that I make in them value it
Mhm.
similarly.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's what the grace looks like to me.
Mhm. And what does grace look like to him?
Um, Probably similar appreciation, um, being seen. Uh, we need different things. So I want to do a fabulous vacation somewhere where Tracy needs to have golf and cigars. So
Mhm.
those things, and there's some simplicity, some
Mhm.
simple things.
Mhm.
Cooking regularly. Everything being in its place. So different in that way. Those things aren't as
Mhm.
important to me, but are important to him and make him feel grace and seen.
Mhm. And so how does both of that, how do those two things meet,
Right. So the
so that
two.
you
So
both feel?
yeah. So what I feel is that I have to show up in the ways that he needs me to show up, kind of as a wife first, then as a business partner second. So that's what I definitely try to do. Do I always feel that I get the reciprocal being seen? I probably don't all the time, but I definitely try to hear and do things because I am not a Susie Homemaker type of wife. Not,
Mhm.
never have been, didn't pretend to be,
Mhm.
but we were in COVID,
Mhm.
so it just COVID made it a little bit different. I was that way with my kids because they, were kids and they ran track, and so I had to have things a certain way. But it's more because I'm an overachiever as a person. Like, so as a parent, my kids ran track at a high level. So yeah, they had to have these types of meals and these types of things or whatever. But as soon as they were gone, like I was like, whoop, I don't have to do that no more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then coming back into being married, now you're back to like, oh, okay, so I do have
Mhm.
to do those things. And so it's
Mhm.
not as innate, um for me, as it's not a default. So you have to be thoughtful, and I have to be like, okay, I'm going to stop working at a certain time so then I
Mhm.
can readjust and then refocus on the things that makes my husband feel
Mhm.
seen and
Mhm.
appreciated and all that stuff. So I definitely.
Do you see all the compromising and the collaboration that we have to do? When Netta
Absolutely.
says, how long
Ab-
will we as women continue to be Mrs. Mixit when it comes to marriage and relationships because of someone else's upbringing? Well, we can't change the person's upbringing, right? And that's
well,
a part of who they are.
right, but she makes a good point. But one thing I do think is I think that, and I've always been taught this. My mom or my grandparents didn't have the right words, but I think women now in certain spaces have it. And my girlfriend said it yesterday. It's like, we're the thermometers, we're the temperatures usually of the marriage. What the wife is, the women are. And so we can make it hot, cold, or comfortable, depending on some of our words, our deeds, and our actions. And so, based on that, I think we are the ones that tend to and will, make some of the different compromises,
Mhm.
just because we're wired differently. If you kind of at just face value, men are more like black and white, or where's color? And I'm sure you may have the same thing with Mister. Like, if I ask Tracy to make a phone call to get the information, the details are lacking. I might as well make the call myself, just because men are different. So right. So,
Whew.
but to her point, but that's why you also need to know who you're marrying, or you need to know who you're with, because you need
Right.
to know if you can. I would have to early on. I mean, knowing who my husband is, he's always been transparent. um, you know that those things are going to come up, and you have to have tools or be thoughtful about how you're going to navigate them.
Right.
They don't come up often, but I have a really good husband and I have a really good marriage. So the times that they come up, am I going to throw away all the other stuff just because I have to navigate those things periodically? I don't think not the word. It's not the trade off.
Right.
Isn't there, because the same way he comes into relationship with something, I do too. It's different than his, so different doesn't mean better or worse, but it is different. I don't have those same traumatic experiences
Hmm.
now, but in that, the same way anyone is giving your partner grace, they're also giving you grace because you're coming into a situation with certain things that trigger you no matter what. So I think
Hmm.
that goes both ways. It's not just for women, but I do think that women are the temperature of relationships.
Yeah. Laverne says there are certain things I went to therapy for, and I still go to therapy. My husband will go to therapy. He is not being responsible. Him not being responsible to work on himself. I do not try to fix him or cater to his triggers. That takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, but how does that work? Because
I
that's
was
one
I
thing.
was just about that. So how
Yeah,
does that
how does
work?
that work? Yeah.
How does that work? Because the communication is so key. It is so
Hmm.
key. We can communicate differently, but we have to communicate on some level. You
Right.
can't guess, because if you're trying to guess what the
You
person
may
is
be
thinking
wrong.
and feeling, it then right, and then it leads to even more trauma. So what my husband has learned about me is, in the moment when I'm hot, all right, and he will say this now: I'm going to give you a couple of hours, but then we must talk. And I go, okay. And boy, 1:59 on the dot, he comes around the corner, and pulls up a chair. Time for us, and he will not move. We must have the conversation. He says we're not going to make things work be any better if we don't talk through the things, which is why I love him so much. I used to get so frustrated about certain things. Now I just go. He will anything. He comes in with a cup, a bottle, or whatever. He washes it out and keeps it. I'm like shit, and I will cuss and cuss and cuss. Now I see it on the drainer. I take it and I just throw it. I don't argue. I don't fuss. I don't none of those things. I see socks with holes in them. I just throw them out. He don't even know. I see things that have been hanging
He knows
around.
now. I'm sure good.
Well, now, yeah, right, because he's listening, right? I see things hanging around that he hasn't touched it since Jesus was a boy. I just calmly get rid of them. I used to get so angry, like, why can't you understand that we cannot have all of this ish in our house? Blah blah blah. I stopped doing all of that, but I had to realize that I wasn't harming him, because he's just accustomed to doing what he's doing, and he's not missing this stuff because he's not going. I miss such and such and such. Mm mm. Um. Then it says he is looking. All right. Laverne says she gives her husband grace, but I deal with him in a way that don't let it affect me. I have gotten better with telling him how I am feeling and not creating stories that are false. Okay? Because when you're angry, you can't really talk about the things that absolutely matter. Then you create a scenario about what really pisses you off, right? She says, remember the 2.5 seconds I used to cuss him out. No, I speak to him respectfully. I did the work. You better come on. And then it says he's looking at it as a failure to go to therapy and not a solution. Pride.
Yes, interestingly enough, people have this thing about therapy and stuff like, if we got to go to therapy, then we got a problem in our marriage. And I was watching this guy one time and he said, how often do you get your hair cut? How often do you go to the barbershop? Like the fact that people, men specifically, because they tend to be a little bit more resistant to therapy,
Mhm.
the fact that they keep and do all these things regularly, but then therapy is considered like a failure if you do that. It's the same thing. It's pruning your marriage. Um,
Mhm.
and so
And
one,
probably working on deep seated traumas that they haven't addressed
yeah, some
and
people
they
are
don't
afraid
want to
of
address it.
because they don't want it. Yep, they don't want it to come up. Yep, they don't want to address it, and they don't want it
Mhm.
to come up. And that makes some people vulnerable. But I love that in general, especially for Black men, therapy is definitely becoming more of a more mainstream
Mhm.
conversation, so that people don't have to feel that it's a stigma or problematic. I think therapy is just like, again, getting your hair cut every week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This was a really good conversation. I really, not knowing what we would get there.
I like
Laverne.
what he chose me. I had to learn to tell my husband when I'm not okay. And I've worked on that too, because everyone that knows me is like, well, you make all the things look so easy. So if I'm like, hey, and sometimes I am like, hey, I need, a hug, or hey, I need a break, or, just whatever. I don't I don't know how to communicate it, unless I'm like, hey, I'm about to break. I'm about to snap. I'm about to crackle and pop.
Rice Krispies out here. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I may need to learn how to do that more often, because I
yeah.
have a really, really, really large capacity to do a lot of things. But I do get to the point where I'm like, okay, this is getting to be a lot. This is getting to be enough, too much. And I think because I have a big capacity, it allows others not to have to, uh, maybe show up the way they really should show up.
Mhm. So let me ask you this, because there's so many people listening that are in relationships. What is the breaking point? What is the breaking, and not in your marriage, but I'm talking about for relationships in general. What's the deal breaker? Um,
I think that's different for everybody. Because
mhm.
I wouldn't be able to answer that for anyone. I think that's different for everyone.
What's the deal breaker for you?
I think the deal breaker for me is consistently not feeling valued and appreciated, and that being shared, and then not doing anything about it, because there's just a certain way I want to feel. I
Mhm.
want to feel adored. I want to feel loved. I want to feel valued. I want to feel appreciated. Um, and I communicate that to anyone.
Mhm.
Again, not just my husband. That's how my friends know. I'm real clear. Like, I'm an only child, and
Baby,
I
and let me
think,
tell you, you are an only child to your core.
yeah, but you know what? I mean, it comes people. There's a stigma around. So there's this thing about
Mhm.
selfishness, and I don't think only children are always selfish. But I am clear that as an only child, I was the center of a lot of people's universe. I do know that. My mother, my grandparents, I do know that. And like when I say the center, my well-being, was their one and only objective, my well-being on every level, my well-being mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like that was, and me just having a healthy and very well-rounded childhood. So like my mom wouldn't date because she potentially thought that men could molest me. So she wouldn't
Mhm.
date. She wouldn't bring men around. She would date, but not where people
Right,
came around
right.
me,
Mhm.
because she was fiercely protective of kind of my innocence and those things, and she didn't want to worry about those things. My grandparents, like, they in every single way, you know made sure I was okay, like in every way humanly possible, until the day they expired, both of them.
Yeah.
So I am used to people valuing and honoring me in that way, and so,
Mhm.
for people that love me, I want you to I am used to a certain way that love makes me feel, for people
Mhm.
that are in my close space.
Mhm.
So, um, so that is, as an only child, you usually don't get that, when there's more than one child, because you just usually aren't the center, because there's more attention that has to be paid to others. So for
Mhm.
me, that's what only child means, to me. Now, I have definitely my girlfriends have definitely helped me, because my girlfriends are only children too, which is weird, but they all are very different. But they have helped me understand that sometimes, kind of, I walk into a room oblivious of others, when I was much younger. And my children have taught me, my children have helped me grow a lot too. I'm so happy that I had two. One probably wouldn't have done it.
Mhm.
About being more selfless, and about being, um, intentional about really showing my love and gratitude to others, just, all those things. So I think that I'm a pretty healthy only child.
Great morning, Andrea, Cherie, and all loving listeners. Sorry I'm late, but I slept in this morning. I never want to miss a loving segment. It's my birthday. Happy birthday,
Happy
my darling.
birthday!
Happy, happy birthday. Andrea says, child, being an only child and the strong friend is not for the weak. Ask me how I know.
Girl, let's connect. Let's connect.
No, I don't. You are too funny. It is.
Yes.
It's interesting. It's it. My husband is an only child, huh?
Mhm. Being the strong one too is another
Yeah.
thing. Yes.
My husband is an only child for his mother. And
Hmm.
when he wants his moment and his time, he just goes up to the third floor and hangs out there for hours. And I don't even bother him. Watch your Star Trek, eat your bone, whatever you want to do. Just stay out of my way. Because he has this moment where he just doesn't want to be around everybody. Okay, do you, don't bother me at all. And then there's some things like he's very kind and will share and an over communicator, but Lord, Laverne says deal breaker for me is constant non-reciprocation, and that was not always the deal breaker because I was heavy on people pleasing.
Yeah, so I think that's non-reciprocation. That's kind of what I'm saying too, maybe in a different way, but just yeah, I want it, for me especially, like, and my girlfriends are really good at this, and we, again, this is stuff like 20 years ago, right? You know, in our late 20s and 30s, when you couldn't tell me nothing and I was so judgmental and I was telling everybody about themselves and how they needed to be better. But what I appreciate about my girlfriends is during that time of kind of my evolution, they
Mm-hmm.
were so mindful to be like, oh my God, last year you would have responded a different way. I love seeing
Mm,
your growth.
your
I
growth,
love seeing
yes.
your evolution. They did that. You know, I couldn't have better friends. Like, and we have our stuff. Trust me, we do. But I could not have better friends because they did that for me. So it reinforced, like, yeah, this is what I need to do. So
Mm-hmm.
now, like, if there's a problem with somebody, I have no problem with, like, hey, let's just have a conversation. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
before, I wouldn't, and I would be, I wouldn't approach that in a very healthy way. Like, I would be, you know, because my words can be real tough sometimes, and I didn't always care if not care, but I didn't always care if you stay my friend, because I had friends, I had my mama, you know, I had, you know, and so I love the fact that they brought me along in that way, and as a result, I have been able to even come here
Mm-hmm.
and attract really good people into my life. Now they're not them, but I do have really good people in my life, and I think it's because my friends really helped me get to a really, really great place, and I helped them too. So I mean, they had their stuff too. I wasn't the only friend, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we all did. We met each other in our early 20s, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we were figuring out life, and I'm glad that those were the people that I figured out life with.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This was a good conversation. I'm grateful that we were able to tap into it because lots of marriages are struggling, lots of relationships and friendships are struggling. There's several different kinds of ways we can love someone. It's not always just a marriage or being in a romantic relationship. It's about the parent child relationship. It's about the friendships that we have out here. It's the work relationships. It's all of it, and we have to manage our emotions and ourselves in such a way that we get the best out of life. And as we learn about who we are and continue to evolve and grow. Monica says, as only child thing is something. One of my good friends is a pillar of strength and control. However, I love that she has allowed me in. Ooh, y'all own the children. I'm telling you.
We are wonderful.
Butterfly says there's so much about sibling position. Hi, Butterfly,
Yes,
that
yes,
informs
there is
you
butterflies.
how you
There's
could.
so much about sibling position, because when you have those siblings, the oldest one has this complex, the middle one has this complex, the youngest one has this complex.
Listen, and I'm the oldest, and let me tell you,
And so
and we're
yes,
not, yeah, and and
boss.
and this and then November is Men's Mental Health Month too, so there's a whole lot going on. I'm seeing a lot of conversations about young men who are just going from left to right. And in the last few weeks, just constantly having the conversation. So we have to talk to our men because, to your point, they're gonna go marry us, right? And if we don't navigate through the traumas and the triggers, they end up in relationships, platonic or otherwise, that blow up on them because they just not dealing with the stuff that's happening with them. Tell people how. Oh God, no, you're not, David. That makes sense that you're an only child. David says, I am an only child and I'm fine. You got the only child syndrome too.
What is the only child syndrome?
So the only child syndrome is you've been blessed with undivided attention. You have a level of courage and confidence that some people just, when you have to deal and share with other people and make sure other people eat and all of this stuff, you that's not your concern. You've been treated like the center of attention. And my husband talked about the time when his birthday's on Christmas Day. He got birthday and Christmas. He wouldn't share with anybody. And they were like, he was like, no, I'm not doing that.
See, I had to learn how to give. I will share, but I used to not give a lot. So now I love to give because I do know that giving, it opens up the energetic portal to receiving. But I didn't give. I just didn't have to. I didn't have to share. It wasn't that I wouldn't. I just didn't have to. So you don't exercise that muscle the exact same way. So I do with my grandchildren, I do talk to them a lot about sharing, giving, because I want them to learn that early. I don't think it's something that my mother didn't instill in me, but it wasn't something that we had to talk about.
No,
it wasn't like
it was
your
just,
brother needs this, your sister needs this, or
yes.
it wasn't like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Andrea says, we are so awesome, only children in so many ways. What? My husband just texted me and says, you are a complex. What the hell does that mean? Andrea says, we are awesome in so many ways. And those of us who are also Capricorns, chef's kiss. Yes.
Too.
Huh?
I'd say that about Aquarians too.
Yeah. My best friends always end up being Aquarians. I don't know why. And anybody that I've spent a lot
amazing people.
If you do say so yourself. Tell people how they can find you, darling.
They can find me at 5021 Baltimore Avenue, Bookers. This Saturday, we have a live show at our Bayou Lounge. So looking forward to seeing this young lady, a local Philadelphia artist, the superstar. She is getting herself all together to put together a show, a poetry reading, dancing. So I'm really looking forward to her eclectic artistry. We have sides givings. So I'm putting up that menu today. Went in our stories yesterday, went out on our newsletter. So if you're not on our newsletter, get on it. We are open Thanksgiving from 11 to 7 for the first time. We get so many inquiries. So we're going to see, we got a staff that's willing to be there. So we're going to see how it goes. So we are open on Thanksgiving for those of you who don't want to cook, either sides givings or just come on in. We're open. So we'll have our normal menu. And then our sides givings will be our specials.
Okay, that's awesome. For those of you, because there are plenty of people who don't have a family and would like to go to a restaurant to eat, that's great. You should be full on Thanksgiving. But if you are there, know that the staff took the time off from their own family. So please tip them well, generously, thank them, and really enjoy yourself. I'm glad that you are opening for Thanksgiving Day because there's so many people who are in that lonely space, that don't have anybody. David said we don't have enough time to debrief. Man, and Laverne says, period on the Capricorn. I'm going to stay quiet because I'm a solid Capricorn myself, so I'm just going to let it go and not get myself in any trouble. Thank you so much, my darling.
And say this. For you talking about you didn't know about I went back to the segment. I said,
I swear you could have said it. I didn't hear. It just went in and went out. It did, because had it gone in and sunken in, I would have texted you right after and said, I want to come to that. It just went in. It's so much going on out here.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. But I was like, hold on. So I said that. I went back.
You just going to defend your comments, huh?
See, I had no idea.
I didn't. For me, it was that cute. I was shocked. Not even realize that that's who you were talking about. So crazy.
But we catered it. It was amazing. So yes, to Marguerite's point, we do corporate catering, we do outside catering, all the things, and it was flawless. I'm so proud of my staff. So it was so worth like back home. It was so worth me cutting my trip short because we always needed extra. We need extra hands, but they still pulled it off flawlessly, masterfully, without me getting overly involved. So it was a good thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Thank you, sweetie pie. See you next Thursday.
Absolutely. Take care.
Right,
bye.
Bye. Dennis says, yes, tip well to your team. Now we're going into the after party. After the party, it's the after party. Hi, my darling. How are you? you?
Oh, it is good to be at home, 2 feet on the ground, well, the world. What is the,
David,
yeah. So Epstein's out. This release
when
of
you say Epstein's out, say more.
as we saw in the media yesterday, 3 different email notes were sent back and forth. One to Mr. Wolf, who works in the media,
Mhm,
to Ghislaine Maxwell, and to Jeffrey Epstein. The
mhm,
emails were a series that talked about the fact that Epstein was writing to Ghislaine saying, I find it very interesting. Sorry, he was writing to Wolf saying, I find it very interesting that. Uh, Trump, who was in my home, Epstein's home, right, for hours with the victim,
mhm,
would not have been questioned by the federal agents.
mhm,
And he then forwards this thought process on to Ghislaine Maxwell, who says that she thought that was also very interesting. And it seemed that Trump had asked Ghislaine to stop. So, and we know that Virginia, for instance, was one of the people working at Mar-a-Lago. Some of the victims were being, so perhaps what Trump is asking her to stop is to stop pulling these people
mhm.
from his home, Mar-a-Lago. But at the same time, he is being entertained in Jeffrey Epstein's house by the victim for hours, according to this particular document. Now, as of yesterday, a Republican senator came to the floor and asked for the Epstein files to be released with unanimous consent. The chair stopped in procedure to decide that that was out of line in procedure and that it needed to go back to the two sides to decide unanimously to bring that forward in consent for bipartisan movement. That did not carry. We do not know currently why that did not carry. But it seems that the vote to have Epstein files come to the floor immediately yesterday did not carry
It
forward.
did. And I'm looking at my Lord, one email was from 2011. Let me see here. He wrote on April, so there was an email from Ghislaine, and
Hmm.
she says, I have been thinking about that. And he says, I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victims spend hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there.
As to why. Now, at the time, Donald Trump is working on The Apprentice. That is his television show, and he has announced that he is going to run for president of the United States. It was around this time, actually, that I recall being at the Spanish Institute of America dinner with Queen Sofia,
Mhm.
when Trump was ragged on in the populace. I think Hillary Clinton was also running at the same time, and she was the honoree at that dinner, and so it was decided that Trump was a laughing stock in that particular room, following on the heels of the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The reason why I say all these things are in tandem is because it's interesting how when a person decides to politically run for something, how suddenly lots of things about them are buried. And so here we have someone who you hear from the horse's mouth was in his own home and be entertained. The victim in the letter is blocked out in black writing, and it says victim over top, but that's the way that people choose to redact names. And
Mhm.
there's a very large section of the copy which is redacted in another email. I'd love
Mhm.
to know what the redaction says. I'll have to
Yes.
ask my AI to run that one.
So this email was from 2015. Michael Wolf sent
Yes.
it to Jeffrey Epstein, an importance high. He said, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on a plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, they're talking about Trump, you could save him generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a new deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. And then somebody, was it Jeffrey that wrote, he said, I hear CNN is planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in a scrum afterwards. So this is saying during the
Michael
presidential
Wolff, yeah.
campaign, Epstein remained mostly in the background despite curiosity about his ties to Trump. Epstein was dealing with fallout from his conduct, but still continued to socialize with notable people. Among them was the journalist Michael Wolff, who went on to write a biography of Trump.
That's right. And it was Wolf informing Jeffrey Epstein about this and being on the air, being discussed about. So I think what we have here is a smoking gun of evidence that suggests the following. First, it lets us know that Jeffrey Epstein was very aware not only of the implications of this on the Trump machine, but he did not put it out there for the world before he was, and I'm going to say quote unquote, murdered, hung himself. And
In his
so
cell where he shouldn't have anything to hang himself with.
and on watch. So how you choose to hang yourself while you're being watched constantly in a cell where you're being held is very interesting. It's always intriguing to me, but alas, this is what happened to him. Perhaps because of this information that he knew, he had names which he named in the victim file. I'm
And
praying
these were
that
all very powerful people.
very powerful people in this list of folk. And so, what Michael Wolff is saying to Jeffrey Epstein is you should use this as a political pawn for yourself and cash it in when you need it. And I wonder if he was just getting ready to cash it in before he found a bed sheet.
So interesting, how is Ghislaine still alive?
Well, Ghislaine has gone to the Trump administration, who went and met her in jail in her maximum security facility, and they moved her to a lower security facility where she has written most recently that she is very happy and being treated well. It is interesting. So I find that when we look at what Ghislaine is doing, I think she's very much playing with the US federal government in what she will and will not say and how she is going to get around this to save her own skin.
Mm.
So,
Will she get around it though? When I talk about when they say the list of powerful men, presidents of countries, Prince of England, all the things. These are really powerful men.
we have a thing in America called double jeopardy. And so we'd have to look at what she has been tried with in order to go to jail currently. And if you could find more evidence, would it be different charges or would it just be the same charge for which she's already serving time? So if she were to come out of jail um, and be set free for whatever reason without a presidential pardon, then we would be looking at someone who has served sentences already for those crimes, and therefore to put her on trial for the same crime would be double jeopardy, I believe. If we are going to talk about a pardon from the president, I think that's a very sticky thing. Would the president pardon someone who is the direct link to his crimes? I think it becomes a political suicide for Donald Trump. But we don't know that he wouldn't do that since he has no.
Rudy Giuliani, all the people that he pardoned last Friday, the 72 people that he pardoned that was a part of the 2020 election fallout.
Right. Right. So when we say would he do it, the question is really how much more would he do? Not would he, but how much more. So that is the fall. Now what is interesting to see is how on the floor this comes to be. Do you have the votes necessary, Democrats, to release the files? And I think it would be literally political suicide if Democrats do not move to release these files, no matter who is in them, no matter how many Democrats are in those files. If they don't move to release these files, you basically put a nail in the Democratic Party. I think it's over.
Yeah.
I think because the Republican Party has already been taken over by MAGA and now runs itself as the Republican Party, um, that it is the way that it has behaved in the last several months is not news to people. But I am saying quite courageously, if they do not release these files from the Democratic side of the aisle, with those votes that are necessary, if they hold back and don't allow this to go through, I think that we will see the end of the party as we know it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're going to look and say that can't happen. They don't know what they're talking about, but okay. Um, let's talk about the government reopening briefly before we
Yes.
end this. So the president apparently signed uh, the bill. Government is reopened.
Mhm.
There are folks
with an extra $500,000 for senators in that bill, by the way.
Oh, I know for each, right, right. Why? Did you hear that? The $500,000 they say is that if the DOJ um, researches them without their permission to file possible charges against them, they will get $500,000 for each infraction. I'm like, what? What is happening here?
What do you think is getting ready to happen that you need to write in a bill and assure for yourself that you're going to get that $500,000? Because if you didn't think there was anything there that charge could be brought against you for, then you wouldn't need to secure yourself
And
with
that's for each,
$500,000
according to them, each
per
infraction, the
charge.
Department of Justice, yes. Because many of them were investigated in 2020, according to them, without their knowledge. I didn't know that the Justice Department had to tell them that they're investigating them. Let's start there. And now they set it up so that, it'll stop, apparently try to stop the Justice Department from getting into their business. They have to tell them that they're being investigated. Otherwise, it's $500,000 for each infraction.
I'm
What?
not sure the law on that. I'd have to look it up. What is the prudence on that? But I think that it may well be that you do have to let a person know they're under investigation at a certain level. I don't know that to be true or false at the
Mhm.
current point. But I will say that I find it very interesting that you need to protect yourself if you are innocent from the first. As far as the government reopening, the caveat is that Republicans will come to the table in good faith, and I think that that is really scary for many Americans. Fetterman was speaking about this. He is one of the dissenting votes which allowed this to happen. I see his career is very short in party politics. I think that people have decided that he has sold them up the river. I think when you look at Pennsylvania and who votes for what, that yes, Pennsylvania is a purple state. Um, Pennsylvania is a state that, if it were not for Philadelphia, often would not lean Democratic, right? So
Mhm.
that is
Philadelphia,
not the
Harrisburg, and
question.
Erie. Mhm.
Yeah, it got, but when we talk about the rural Pennsylvanians, what we're also talking about is a group of poor white people who very much exist on government subsidy. And so they too are affected by things like food stamps and or ability to get welfare checks or other sorts of things. And so the reopening of the government, he says, is in order to protect those people who need those food stamps, this, any other, whatever else, who need that paycheck to continue forward. But what he seems to miss is that those are the same people who are going to see this premium hike in their insurance rates, people who will be unable to go to the hospital. I seem to recall that he is a man who has thrice had serious medical interventions needed that were paid for by the federal government in what seems to me like a handout. And that if he were not alive to vote on this bill, it would be due to the fact that he did not receive the very things that he is now going to strip from other people. So I think it is a very interesting way to frame a portrait, if you will, and to say that what you're doing is helping the very people who you will be snuffing out at the end if the
It's
Republicans don't come
amazing.
to the table in good faith. Yeah.
It's amazing how complicit people can be for what? For power, for ego, for
Clear to say that he needs to win his next election, and that if he doesn't reopen the government, then people have told him he'll be gone. Those same conservative people who don't have any money and are on these subsidies. Now, what is very short sighted of him, but perhaps it's because of his stroke, is that those same people will be needing to get to the hospital, and they will then put him out because they can't get to the hospital for his
right.
vote. So, you know,
Damned if you
um,
do, damned if you don't, right?
well, this is when when one is a politician, they work at the behest of the people. That is to say, at their protection and at what is best for the population that they serve. And I think that this is a time in which we've seen pressurize the cooker pot, not necessarily for the best interest of the people, but for the best interest of the lining of his pocket. If only it had been silk and not made of tracksuit material.
And on that note, and on that note, and the Pennsylvania bill was passed. The budget was passed in Pennsylvania yesterday too. It was signed by
Well done,
congressional
her.
people.
Yes, well done, her. Speaker
Mhm.
of the House, Madam Speaker of the House. We
Yes,
congratulate
yes,
her work always.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Joanna McClinton, who is the
Mhm.
Speaker of the House.
She's a firebird. I love her. She's
Yeah,
so great. And she's someone who really works day and night behind the scenes. I don't know if people know how hard she's working, how many phone calls she's on,
because
and
she's not pontificating; she's doing the work.
she's doing the work.
She's doing the
So
work, and
um,
that's important.
never know.
Always important, right?
That's it. Never let the
Um,
right hand know what the left is doing.
and she's smiling and showing up and doing what she's supposed to do, but you can see she's doing the work. She's someone, if she runs for office again, will win handily because she's doing the work, right? It's not about taking pictures. It's been, and so Madam Speaker Joanna McClinton, thank you. Thank you on behalf of the citizens of Pennsylvania. Thank you, because they're a small majority, and so there's a lot going on up there that they have to work through. I'm going to go up there and visit. Maybe you and I will go together.
We should. Are you coming to City Council today?
I wasn't planning to. Do
I
I
think
need
it'll be
to?
an interesting session.
Okay, let me gather my clothes and my. Okay, if you see me, then you know. You are too much. You are too much.
It's
Alexander says the top 10 states being financially affected before the shutdown by tariffs are all red states. Fetterman lied to those who voted for him. Yeah, it's going to be all right. Thank you so much, my darling. You may see me today. I've got a lot going on, but what's a little drive into town to park and go sit? What's happening?
Indeed.
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 All right, my darling. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right. This episode of Mornings with Mova and the After Party is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Andrea says, yes, I'll be streaming the session from my office. Lord, I guess I need to. Let me go see what's going on. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.